At our adoption finalization party, I found my wife in the parking lot, sitting in a car with her affair partner. When I banged on the window, she rolled it down and said, "Don't be so dramatic. You're a good dad, not a good husband." I took our child home alone that night, and filed emergency custody the next morning. I never imagined I'd be the guy telling this kind of story. I used to read posts like this and think, that's rough, but I never thought I'd live one. I'm a quiet, simple guy. I keep to myself, go to work, love my family, and try to do right by the people around me. But that didn't stop my life from falling apart in the most humiliating way. Melissa and I had been together for 7 years, married for 4. We met in Topeka, Kansas, when we were both working at the same hospital. She was a nurse, I was in admin. She was smart, funny, outgoing, the kind of person who lit up a room. Me? I was the guy behind the scenes, making sure everyone got their hours in and the paychecks went out. We were opposites, but it worked. Or at least I thought it did. We couldn't have kids. That was a heavy hit. Melissa had 2 miscarriages in the first 2 years. After the second one, she didn't want to try anymore. She shut down emotionally for a while. I gave her space. I told her we didn't have to force anything. Eventually, we started looking into adoption. It took almost 2 years. The paperwork, the interviews, the home study, it drained us. But when we got matched with Ivy's birth mother, everything changed. We were chosen. Ivy was born in Missouri, and the second we held her, we were in love. She was tiny, red-faced, and perfect. Her birth mom looked me in the eyes and said, "I picked you because you seemed steady. Like a rock." I took that seriously. I promised I'd be that rock. The finalization happened 6 months later. We invited close friends, family, co-workers. Rented a little banquet room at a place in Overland Park. Ivy was barely 1. She had on this yellow sunflower dress Melissa picked out on Etsy. Melissa even had matching earrings. People were laughing, smiling, toasting with little plastic cups. I held Ivy and told everyone, "She's officially ours." I kept looking for Melissa, though. She was moving around a lot. On her phone. Distracted. I asked her twice if everything was okay and she just said, "Yeah, just tired." Around 8 p.m. I realized she hadn't been in the room for a while. My sister was holding Ivy, so I went to look for her. I asked her cousin, Taylor, if she'd seen her. Taylor hesitated. She said she was going to the car for a second. I went outside. I didn't see her right away. The lot wasn't packed, but most people were parked close. Then I spotted her car in the far corner, almost backed up against a row of bushes. The lights were off, but the engine was running. I walked faster. My gut told me something was off. When I got closer, I saw 2 figures in the front seat. Melissa in the driver's seat. A guy in the passenger. I stopped a few feet away and stared. I couldn't process what I was seeing. Then I knocked on the window. Hard. Melissa flinched, then turned and saw me. She rolled it down halfway. Her expression was completely blank. Not guilty. Not surprised. Just annoyed. "What the hell are you doing?" I said. She exhaled like I was interrupting something minor. "Don't be so dramatic," she said. "You're a good dad, not a good husband." I felt like someone slapped me. That sentence, it hit like a truck. I looked at the guy. He didn't even look my way. Just sat there, arms crossed, like I was an inconvenience. "Are you serious right now?" I asked. "This is our daughter's finalization party. Are you cheating on me? Right now?" She didn't say anything. She looked away. That told me everything. I turned and walked back inside. I didn't tell anyone the details. I told my sister, we're leaving. Pack up Ivy's stuff. She didn't argue. She saw the look on my face. I drove home in silence. Ivy fell asleep in the back. I pulled into our driveway, carried her inside, and sat in the nursery for hours. I didn't cry right away. I just stared at her. Her little chest rising and falling. Her fingers curled up by her face. Around 4 a.m., I finally let it out. I sat on the floor and broke down. It was like my whole life cracked open in one night. The next morning, I called my lawyer. Told him everything. Asked if I could file for emergency custody. He said it would be tough but possible, especially if I could prove emotional instability or neglect. I gave him everything I had: texts, photos, a written statement from Taylor confirming she'd seen Melissa leave with someone during the party. 3 days later, I had temporary emergency custody. Melissa didn't even fight it. She texted me once, "I just need time to figure things out." She moved in with her sister. I stayed in the house with Ivy. 2 weeks went by before Melissa asked to see Ivy. I told her she could, but only at my place, with me present. She said she didn't feel comfortable. I said, "That's not my problem." Then she filed for joint custody. I lost it. We went to court. She played the victim. Told the judge I was controlling, emotionally distant, and obsessed with work. That I pushed her away. I responded with facts. I pulled out my work schedule. I showed how I used PTO for every doctor's appointment, every adoption meeting. I showed the bank statements, proving I paid for everything: rent, groceries, baby stuff, while she was supposedly too anxious to work more than 2 shifts a week. Then came the twist. Tyler's wife called me. I had no idea who she was at first. But she introduced herself as the wife of the man your wife's been sleeping with. Apparently, she'd found messages between Tyler and Melissa. Photos. Hotel receipts. Voice notes. She asked if I knew. I told her yes. She asked if I'd testify in her divorce. I said, absolutely. She divorced him. Got custody of their kids. Took half his stuff. Then she gave me a copy of everything she found: messages between Tyler and Melissa mocking me, calling me too boring and just a paycheck. Tyler saying Melissa should ditch the baby if she really wanted to start fresh. I gave that to the court. Melissa lost all credibility after that. Judge gave me full custody. Supervised visits for her, once a week. She tried to act like the victim, but nobody was buying it. She didn't even show up half the time. Ivy didn't know her anymore. She cried when Melissa held her. Then one day, Melissa asked to come over, just to talk. I let her. She sat at our kitchen table, tears in her eyes, and said, "I miss our family." I said, "You walked out on your family. You made your choice." She blamed depression. Work stress. The adoption process. I didn't care anymore. She asked if we could try again. I said no. That was almost a year ago. I haven't heard from her since. But I know this isn't over yet. People like her don't just disappear. They come back when they think you've forgotten. But I haven't. I'm not the same guy I was that night. She broke something in me, and now I'm stronger for it. About 2 months after that last visit, things were quiet. Too quiet. I started to think maybe Melissa had finally accepted the outcome. I was wrong. One morning, I was feeding Ivy breakfast when I got a letter in the mail. It was from a law office in Kansas City I'd never heard of. At first, I thought it was junk mail, but when I opened it, my stomach dropped. Melissa had filed a motion to reverse custody. She was claiming I alienated her from her child, and that I had emotionally manipulated Ivy to fear her. She was asking for unsupervised joint custody. She even claimed I told Ivy that her mom didn't want her. Total lie. But then came the twist. Melissa had moved in with another guy. Not Tyler, he was long gone. This one was older, had money, and lived in Lenexa. They were engaged. She brought him to court. Said they were creating a stable home and that Ivy deserved to be part of it. I'll admit, he seemed normal. Polite. Had a calm voice. I could tell he had no idea what kind of person Melissa really was. She told the court she wanted Ivy to spend weekends with them so she could build a maternal connection. The judge didn't say much at the hearing. Just that he'd review everything and schedule a follow-up. That night, I couldn't sleep. Then, something strange happened. A week later, I noticed someone following me home. It was subtle. Same gray SUV. Parked across the street. Sometimes during daycare drop-off, sometimes outside my house at night. Always just sitting there. One night, I walked outside and tried to approach it, but it drove off. I reported it to the police. Nothing they could do unless the person did something illegal. Then I got a call. It was Melissa's fiancé. He sounded shaken. He said, "I need to talk to you. Man to man." I didn't know what to expect, but I agreed to meet him at a diner halfway between our houses. When I got there, he looked like he hadn't slept in days. He said, "I didn't know about Tyler. I didn't know about the custody stuff. She told me you cheated and abandoned her. I didn't even know she was under supervised visitation." He went on to say he found an old journal in her closet. It was full of letters she'd written but never sent. And in them, she talked about how she only adopted Ivy to feel something again, and how she thought about giving her back more than once. I nearly threw up. He slid me a copy. Said he didn't want to be part of it anymore. Said he was ending the engagement and wanted nothing to do with Melissa again. I asked him, "Why tell me?" He said, "Because she's trying to ruin you. And she's not well." I gave the copy to my lawyer the next morning. We filed for a protective order. We submitted everything to the court. The judge ordered a psychological evaluation. Melissa didn't show up for it. She sent me a message instead. It said, "I hope you're proud of yourself. You're the reason Ivy will grow up hating her mother." I didn't reply. I printed it and added it to the file. Now it's back in the judge's hands. I don't know what she's planning next. But I know this, I'm ready for it. I'm not afraid of her anymore. She messed with the wrong parent. And I'm not done fighting. A few weeks after the court ordered the psych evaluation, and Melissa ghosted it, I figured things might finally settle. Maybe the judge would finally see how unstable she really was. But I was wrong. Again. One morning, I got a call from Ivy's daycare while I was at work. My stomach sank. They never call unless something's wrong. The director, Mrs. Claiborne, sounded shaken. "Mr. Marks, I need to inform you that a woman claiming to be Ivy's mother came here today, unannounced. She tried to sign her out." My heart stopped. What? She's not allowed to do that. Her visitation is supervised only. "I know," she said. "That's why we didn't release Ivy." But she made a scene. Screamed at one of the aides. Threatened to call the police. We had to call security. I dropped everything and rushed over. Ivy was in her class, safe, but shaken up. When I got there, I found out Melissa had already left. They said she stormed off, shouting that she was going to fix this in court. I added that incident to our records and called my lawyer again. He said, "She's pushing boundaries. She's escalating." He was right. A few days later, my neighbor, an older guy named Vince, knocked on my door. "You got someone looking through your mailbox yesterday," he said. I yelled at him, and he bolted. Didn't look like a mailman to me. I checked the camera. It was grainy, but clear enough. It was Melissa. Wearing a hoodie, sunglasses, digging through our mailbox like she was looking for something. That was enough to push for a restraining order. We filed it. The judge granted a temporary one while reviewing everything else. I changed my locks, put up cameras all around the house, and got a lockbox for my mail. I even started keeping Ivy's daycare and medical information in a locked drawer. That weekend, I found a manila envelope taped to my front door. No note, no name on the outside. Inside was a single printed email exchange, between Melissa and a child therapist. She'd apparently been trying to get Ivy into private therapy behind my back. She told the therapist that I was the reason Ivy was developing anxiety. That I was emotionally damaging her by keeping her away from her biological mother. She wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. She was building a fake paper trail. Trying to flip the narrative. The therapist had refused to schedule a session without my consent, but Melissa still printed the emails and left them for me like a warning. I called the therapist the next day. She confirmed everything. She even agreed to write a statement for the court. That same week, Melissa's old fiancé, the guy from Lenexa, called me again. He was worried. "She reached out to me last night," he said. Said she was pregnant. Told me she was going to start over. That she was going to get her daughter back and build up a real family. He didn't think it was true. He said she's said things like that before, grand promises, sudden swings. But she was unstable, and worse, obsessed. She kept talking about the life she was supposed to have and how Ivy was being poisoned against her. That word, poisoned, sent a chill down my spine. This wasn't about custody anymore. It was about control. And she was losing it. The next court date was getting close. I had everything ready: statements, documents, video footage, police reports, daycare incident forms. My lawyer told me, "We just need to make it through this hearing. This could be the one that shuts it all down for good." But then, 2 days before the hearing, Melissa vanished. No one knew where she was. Her phone went to voicemail. She didn't show up for her weekly supervised visit, again. The family center called me, worried. Even her sister called, asking if I'd heard from her. I hadn't. At first, I felt a weird mix of relief and fear. Relief that maybe she finally gave up. Fear that she was planning something bigger. And I was right to be afraid. The morning of the hearing, I walked outside with Ivy to take her to daycare, and the tires on my car were slashed. All 4. Sliced clean through. There was red lipstick on my driver's side window. A smear. Just one word written underneath in black marker: liar. That morning, standing in my driveway with Ivy in my arms, looking at 4 slashed tires and that word written on my window, liar, I felt something shift in me. I wasn't scared anymore. I was done playing defense. I was going to end this. I called the police. They came, took photos, wrote up a report. The officer asked if I had any enemies. I gave him Melissa's name without hesitation. "I have a restraining order," I said. "I have full custody. And she's losing control." He nodded. "We'll check traffic cameras, see if we can place her vehicle near your home last night." I had Ivy stay home with my sister while I caught a ride with my lawyer to the courthouse. When I walked in, Melissa wasn't there. The judge called the case, waited 10 minutes, then looked at me and said, "She was served notice?" Yes, my lawyer said. She signed for it personally. Then he pulled out everything. Over an inch of documents, photos, statements, police records, the daycare report, the therapist letter, and now the vandalism from that morning. The judge read silently for a while. You could hear a pin drop. Then he spoke. I've been patient through this process, he said. But Ms. Keller's actions, especially in the last 90 days, show a disturbing pattern. Disregard for court orders. Emotional instability. Attempts to manipulate therapists and lie to educational staff. And now, possible criminal vandalism. He turned to me. Mr. Marks, I'm granting your request for full and permanent sole custody of Ivy Marks. Legal and physical. Supervised visitation for Ms. Keller is hereby suspended indefinitely, pending psychiatric evaluation and criminal review. I just nodded. I didn't cry. I didn't cheer. I was too exhausted to celebrate. All I felt was this low, deep relief in my bones. It was over. Or so I thought. 3 days later, I got a call from the police detective assigned to the vandalism report. We found something you're going to want to hear, he said. Turns out Melissa had borrowed a friend's car, her ex-fiancé's car, the guy from Lenexa. She'd stolen the spare key before he kicked her out. Drove it over to my house that night. Slashed the tires. Wrote on the window. Then parked the car 2 blocks away and walked home. What she didn't know. That guy had installed GPS tracking because he thought she might try something like that. After I warned him she'd been hanging around the neighborhood again, he activated the tracker and gave the data to the police. They had time stamps. Route logs. It was enough. She was arrested at her sister's house a few days later. Charged with felony vandalism, violation of a protective order, and tampering with a vehicle. I didn't go to the arraignment. I didn't need to. Her mugshot was all over the local news. She looked nothing like the woman I married, eyes wide, makeup smeared, hair pulled back tight. Like she'd been living on caffeine, chaos, and bitterness. She got probation, mandated mental health counseling, and a permanent no-contact order. The court even barred her from being within 500 feet of Ivy's daycare or our home. But that wasn't the end of the karma. Tyler's ex-wife, remember her? She got wind of the arrest and used it to reopen her divorce agreement. Claimed Melissa's actions showed Tyler put their kids around an unsafe influence. Got her custody modified and his visitation cut in half. Melissa's old job? They fired her quietly after her court appearance. Someone leaked it internally. Too much risk, they said. Unstable behavior. Violation of trust. Even her sister cut her off. Sent me a message saying, I tried to help her. I can't anymore. I hope Ivy is okay. You're doing a good job. And Ivy? She's thriving. She just turned 4. Loves dinosaurs, sidewalk chalk, and cheese pizza. She sleeps through the night now, no more nightmares. No more waking up calling for someone who never showed up. We talk about her mom sometimes. I tell her the truth, in simple ways. That her mom is sick. That she made bad choices. But that Ivy didn't do anything wrong. Ivy asked me once, why doesn't mommy come see me? I paused, then said, because she forgot how to take care of people. And until she remembers, it's daddy's job to protect you. She nodded like she understood. Then she handed me a crayon and asked if I wanted to help draw a T-Rex. I never heard from Melissa again. Not a letter. Not a birthday card. Not even an appeal. It's like she vanished. And honestly, I hope she got help. I hope she found peace. But more than that, I hope she never comes near Ivy again. I kept every court file, every text, every photo, every letter. Not because I want revenge. But because if the day ever comes that Ivy wants answers, I'll have the truth. Not my version. Not Melissa's. The real truth. And when that day comes, I'll be ready. Because I'm not just a good dad. I'm her dad. Forever.